Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Art of the Beholder, a show dedicated to all things eclectic in the world of art, where we do deep dives into deep cuts and help you understand why damn things matter. I'm your host, Novo Day, and today we're going to be talking about art in traditional writing, literature, songwriting, music, and poetry by focusing on the career of one Leonard Cohen. To hash it out, I am joined by Alexandra Parsons of alexandraparsons.com and Instagram handle Alexandra_Parsons. Miss Parsons, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Apologize for my Leonard Cohen voice.
I was about to say, you sound a lot like Leonard Cohen himself. What's going on? Did you?
I took some potion and I channeled him this afternoon. So
perfect.
Somehow I think he's manifested into my vocal cords.
So we, ladies and gentlemen, we have Leonard Cohen with us today. So it's going to be perfect to talk about your and his career. So Ms. Parsons, let's tell the good people why we're talking about Mr. Cohen today. So Leonard Cohen was a lot of things in his career, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I believe in his heart, he was not only a writer or a novelist or a musician, he was truly a poet. And more importantly, what a poet could be in the 20th or the last of the 20th century and early 21st century. Now, before we can discuss, of course, we all need a little background. So Leonard Norman Cohen was born on September 21st, 1934 in Westmount, Quebec, Canada. There was so much to talk about in our discussion section. I'm going to keep this part short and sweet and tell you about what he did with all the art we're about to discuss and give you guys some of his accolades. He's been inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the more traditional and most internationally recognized Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as well as receiving the Prince of Astor Award for Literature, the 9th Glenn Gould Prize, and an induction as a Companion of the Order of Canada, which is the nation's highest civilian honor. Now, before we can discuss further and really focus on the art, we all need a little word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by the novel The Entropy Sessions, a tale of loss, love, and madness in our past, present, and future relationships with technology. Find it on Amazon and as an audiobook through Audible. Your support helps us continue our journey. Now back to the show. So first and foremost, Ms. Parsons, I want to start with this. How did you become a super fan, a Leonard Cohen super fan?
Oh, I love that question. I had a fantasy about him one night, and sorry.
This vocal is perfect for the show. We needed you deep and raspy.
He seduced me with his words, like he did many women. That's actually very true. He did do that for a lot of women. But
I have a follow-up question.
Yes,
continue.
As a youngster, teenager, I was very much like my dad called me a beatnik at heart, and I really got into Ginsberg and some other poets around that time. And I found Leonard Cohen. I just found the Book of Longing. And I didn't really actually know his music. I knew Hallelujah, but I didn't realize he wrote it because I knew, Jeff Buckley did it.
Sure.
And I think I was like, I don't know, I think I was like 15 or 16. Maybe I was a little older than that. Could have been older.
Wow.
Maybe might have been 19. Yeah, might have been I don't know, but I was young. It was like my late teens, maybe early 20s, let's say that. So I found the Book of Longing and I fell in love with how he wrote lyrics. And I fell in love with like his doodles in the book. And then I wasn't crazy about his music until later. It kind of started. I wasn't crazy about his, like, I know we're going to get into his vocals.
So your first love was poetry.
Yeah. And it's still like poetry is a way to my heart. I love poetry. And it's always been really hard for me to read. Like, you and I were just discussing like novels and stuff sometimes, but poetry was always really easy for me. And it was something that was very emotional and moving. It's very moving and emotional and brought up feelings that I wasn't necessarily able to process in everyday life, but able to process more through poetry. So I also wrote poetry since I was little too. So that's what got me, is that book. And then I realized, I'm like, oh shit, Hallelujah was in there too. And I was like, oh fuck, he wrote Hallelujah. And then I started watching like documentaries, and like I watched like I'm Your Man came out.
Yeah.
So I think in my mid-20s, I started watching more documentaries about him and like found out how loved he was. So that was more, no one introduced me to him. I kind of discovered him. Same thing with Ginsberg.
So, follow up question. I was, yes, as we were doing our homework, time and time again, I saw that he was admired by many of the ladies, and it made me think. Does this, so you're answering on behalf of all women, you're our resident female voice. Does it tap into a female fantasy of there is this man that is this hopeless romantic that he makes me feel like the only woman in the world, and he's making this music almost for me, and it makes me gravitate towards him more?
Mm. Is there that type of woman? I'm going to clarify
No,
that
I
question.
guess does him as kind of an archetype when he
Hmm.
became not just Leonard Cohen the man, but Leonard Cohen the artist,
Yeah.
the myth, the legend. Does it tap into this female fantasy of this, a longing for hopeless romance
Yeah.
and the
Yeah, it
man
does.
that embodies that? And I feel like Leonard Cohen kind of embodied that to almost a perfect degree.
Oh, yeah. Like there's, it makes me think of that for sure. No, I do think so. And it makes me, he definitely has tapped into that for a lot of women. I can't really, I don't know if like the modern day women, but back then for sure. And for someone who is a hopeless romantic like myself, and I have fallen for men that have been musicians and poets themselves, it's definitely triggers that type of individual, that sensitive soul,
Mm.
that like was the tall, dark, and handsome, mysterious,
But
but like
also like emotionally available and sensitive and in touch with his feelings, that
yeah,
kind
and
of
like
thing.
yeah, quiet and like not not cheesy. Like he was just
Right.
his
Still
words came
serious,
out in his
like
lyrics
sincere.
very yeah, and he was just like I don't know if it's because like how he grew up, like where he grew up, why he was the man that he became.
Sounded like all of it, kind of
He
a
just
amalgamation, like a combination of so many things, and he kind of came this poet,
he just loved women.
That's a good segue to talk about his art. So, what a lot of people don't know is he first started as a novelist, including, I believe, yourself. You didn't know that he was a writer, not just of poetry, but of literature.
I didn't realize that until I saw the outline. I was like, oh, he
Yeah, he was a poet first, and then he wanted to try his hand at long form writing, which is novelizations. And he did write 3 novels, and those include The Favorite Game in 1963, Beautiful Losers in 1966, and A Ballet of Lepers, which I don't think actually came out till, I didn't put the date here, but I'm pretty sure it didn't come out till 2022. Very,
okay.
very recent. Long story short, you probably already know this, but the good people probably don't know this, is why he didn't continue this. He definitely continued the poetry, but part of the reason he went into music is he realized that there was not enough financial security in writing, and I definitely can relate to that. Fuck me.
Mm.
Fuck me. But that's why we go into other things like podcasting, and that's why Leonard Cohen's kind of when I more got into him, and I was late to the party, so just for the good people, I probably only got him into him in the last 15 years, definitely a lot deeper in the last 10, and you'll see that in some of the music I kind of gravitated towards. But he's so inspiring, and a lot of us artists probably aspire to be like him because he never gave up, and he didn't quite get to the level of fame that he did until way late in his career. Now he's internationally recognized, and not for the novels, not for the poetry collections, which we'll talk about in a minute, but for the music. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, guys. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about some of his other writing collections in the form of poetry. Let Us Compare Mythologies is a big fan favorite. The Spice Box of Earth, Flowers for Hitler, Book of Mercy, Stranger Music, another big hit, Book of Longing, another one, Death of a Ladies' Man, Hat Trick, The Lyrics of Leonard Cohen, 15 Poems, and The Flame. What's one of your favorites?
Books
Yeah,
out of his
poetry
poetry.
collections. Yeah, let's do
The book,
this.
the Book of Longing, the Book of Longing for sure. That was the one that I found, I kind of discovered, and some of his best poetry, I believe, is in that one. It's hard to kind of find. I guess it's Amazon, but I love going through bookstores and finding things without having
Oh
to go on
yeah,
Amazon,
buried treasure. Oh yeah.
So it's hard to find the other ones sometimes. Like Strand Bookstore in New York um, has a great collection, and I found the Let Us Compare Mythologies. That's very
Hmm.
small. It's a nice coffee table book. It's not big, but the Book of Longing has more of his drawings. A lot of them I think he did while he was practicing becoming a Buddhist monk in the California
Right. Yeah.
hills.
He secluded himself for a long time and stopped writing music, stopped everything to become a Buddhist monk for a
Hmm.
while there. So, and we'll I think part of our framing device with the episode and his career is through the music. But let's give the good people a primer before we dive into his albums. So, if you were to describe his music to someone that's never heard Leonard Cohen before, how would you describe it?
It's a mixture of romanticism, like modern beatnik poetry, but also it can be very haunting. He always speaks of the past, but also like romanticizes the future, the what ifs in a lot of his poetry. He's a storyteller. So that's really what he is he's a romantic storyteller. And he's able to find words, his rhythmic performance when he does it live or even like when you just read it is poetry in itself. It's really beautiful.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I Let's focus on themes for a little bit. So his lyrical themes, though wide ranging, I mean, he would talk about everything from religion to politics to you name it. At their core is exactly what Miss Parsons is talking about. He would talk about love and love making. So not just raw dog and sex, like actual love making, where there was intimacy involved, right? I mean, that's why before I even knew that there was a collection of poetry called Book of Longing, I wrote that into our outline. I was like, there's such a longingness. There's a longing for intimacy in his work.
Mhm.
He's always yearning for connection and companionship and love and romance and relationships, and it just oozes from his work. And that I think in and of itself not only taps into that kind of that stuff we were talking about earlier in the discussion section, but it does, even to me, I feel like a lot of his work came off very sexy, for
Yeah.
lack of a better
Mhm.
word. And part of that
Seductive,
yes,
seductive.
yes.
Yeah.
And part of that is his vocal approach, because again, what a lot of people probably don't know is he didn't want to really sing. Even when he was getting into music, I think he may have wanted to be a songwriter and kind of pass, like, here you go, here's a song, I wrote some poetry, I rearranged it to be more of a song structure, here you go. And slowly but surely the craft kind of found him, and he became the musician we know him as today. And I think that, and, no one's analyzed this from at least the stuff I've studied, but his vocal timbre is I think a testament to that history, because he kind of stays in his lane, and
Mhm.
for good. Not that he has to try to be a falsetto, or yeah, go even deeper than his register actually allows him to. He doesn't. He Every song sounds like Leonard Cohen because of it. He has a very specific range he likes to sing in, and he kind of stays there. And that's what I think also lent to his character, in the musicianship, in the sound, and things like that. And equally so, his song crafting is very simple. It got more complex as the years went on
Yeah.
and the albums went on, but it really, at its core, again, just like the themes, there was a minimalist approach.
Very
Uh,
yeah, very folky, but
oh
we're gonna
yeah,
get into
the
that.
early
Yeah.
stuff was very folky, some kind of merged into folk rock. Of course, he had some outliers, which we'll dive into in a minute. But that's a good primer, I think, for the good people. So let's go ahead and dive in. So, songs of Leonard Cohen, 1967. Was incredibly minimal. It was essentially him, his vocal, and his guitar.
Yeah.
Almost no musical additional accompaniment besides his vocal melodies that he wrote. And he would write a lot of the songs are very similar, because he would write a lot of the same melodies and have the same rhythms with his melodies. And to me, Songs of Leonard Cohen was more poetry, just like talk singing, than
Yeah.
true
Yeah.
folk. Whereas when we get to Songs from a Room, 1969, you're starting to see that transition. The production's getting better. He's starting to realize, okay, I'm not just a poet, I'm also a musician. And I think that really lands in 1971 with Songs of Love and Hate. This is the very first album where I was like, okay, shit, I get it. I fucking get it. And I think before I pass it to you to tee you up, I think he realized this was the time. It took him 3 albums, and I always talk about this on our shows. There's something about the third album. It's the breakthrough one where he realized he's not just a poet. I mean, he very much is a poet and a lyricist, but he's a songwriter. He's a musician too.
Yes, and even the cover is iconic. The black and white,
Oh yes,
his face. I don't know if there's a couple different ones, but they recently, like last year, they re-released it. If it wasn't released for like on vinyl for like 30 years or something crazy. That's what I was told. You could only find. Well,
and you have this guy on vinyl, you said, right?
and I got him on vinyl. So I was
You
like,
lucky
I was
bee.
like, I don't have any Leonard Cohen on vinyl. I was like, that's blasphemy for me, for like loving his music and his poetry so much. I was like, let me find it. So I went into Rough Trade when it used to be in Brooklyn. They moved to 57th Street now, over near like SNL Studios.
Okay.
So, but now they're on
30 Rock.
Yeah, 30 Rock. They're over there. But they were always in Williamsburg, and I went in, and there was one left, and the guy was like, "I can't believe you got." I go, "Do you have any?" I was like, "Do you have any Leonard Cohen?" He's like, "Dude, what the fuck? We just got one left." He's like, and it's the first time the first release in like 20, 30 years or something.
Oh my God, that was
And
destiny.
I was like, "Oh, Leonard, you're looking out for me, my man." I was like, and you're on the grave. I love you.
And that leads us to Songs of Love and Hate was folk at its finest, where I really feel like he was hitting his stride, but he was still evolving, and that's what I loved about his career and studying him. And that brings us to 1974, New Skin for the Old Ceremony. I again love this. I don't know if you felt this way when you were going through his discography again. It's like it just kept getting better. Every album I felt like this just keeps getting better and better and better, and the song crafting evolved too. And I know that's subjective in terms of just because a song is complex doesn't mean it's necessarily better. A simple song can be beautiful and brilliant and outshine a very complex, crazy technical song, because at the heart and soul of good songwriting is just that is making things simple and making sure that in any form, shape, or color that it's still really getting to the audience and an emotional impact. And I think his music always did that. And that leads us to, I think, so the first breakthrough was Songs of Love and Hate, 1971. But I think the second breakthrough, part of that was because of Phil Spector, was Death of a Ladies' Man, 1977. And this is where like the music was, we're starting to get we're starting to transition a little away from the folk. It's still very folksy, but we're seeing more harmonies, more instruments, more like it's just becoming more well-rounded. And of course, Phil Spector, it's becoming a wall of sound that he made famous before his incredible infamy. If any of you are Phil Spector fans out there,
I'm like quickly looking out because like when I listen to his music, I don't
I
always
thought you were about
listen.
to sing for a little bit. I thought you were about to
God.
with that Cohen voice of yours. I was like, oh, is it coming? Oh,
kind of driving me. Friends, I literally woke up from a nap and my voice manifested into this. It was really.
I thought it was
weird.
the potion. I thought we were going with that. That's the one I like.
I like the potion one too. I like
but
the idea.
There was naps involved.
Yes, there were naps.
Siestas. So, let's call them siestas.
I mean, I believe Memories is on that album, and there's The Death of a Ladies' Man, which is on that album, and True Love Leaves No Traces. When I listen to his music, I tend to like not always listen to by album unless I have the vinyl, because I'm streaming it to either I'm listening to the one vinyl I have, or I'm streaming it in or plugging it into my car and just listening to it. And I try to I haven't been the best individual with or a musician fan as with albums. Oh, this is on this album. Because some people are album heads. They're really big on it's this album.
You're talking to an album head.
Yeah,
right
this
here.
album's
so tease away.
It's incredible. It's the structure. I'm like, all right, I'm just listening to fucking songs. I was like, Jesus.
Well, in my defense, all I need to say is one album, and that's Dark Side of the Moon.
I know that is the
that is
most,
to be listened to from beginning to end as an album.
and I will,
But
and
I get your side too. I
do
get it.
that with George. I have like George Michael, the
Ooh,
Listen Without Prejudice. That's one of
and
my
Wham those days.
no,
That's
this
George
is
Michael.
George Michael. No, this is after Wham. This is what he's singing Listen Without Prejudice. Another like solo
But it was
artist
that
who's,
George Michael, I guess is my point.
it
I
is
was
that
like,
George Michael. That's like,
that's George Michael. Okay.
I get it. There are albums that are that you're like, you need to listen from beginning to end. With this one I didn't listen to beginning to end, but like I do love all the songs are beautiful on here.
I think if you don't, I feel like if
It's a
you all,
story, right?
well, regardless of what type of listener you are, I like the album structure. You like the single structure. I think Leonard Cohen is perfect for that because a lot of
Mhm.
his music does overlap. Like you know, it's Leonard Cohen right away. You know, it's a Leonard Cohen song right away. Not only because of that vocal timbre, but in his approach to melody and simplicity and rhythm. And he so I think this is actually a perfect example of this is the kind of musician for all kinds of listeners. If you want
Mhm.
more of the bulk, album structure, you're gonna love a lot Death of a Ladies Man, Here in a Minute, Various Positions. But if you want to just listen to the hallelujahs and the fucking whatever,
Chelsea Hotel.
yeah, exactly, you have,
Suzanne.
you
Yeah.
can you can essentially put his best of, or what is it called on Spotify? Like this is Leonard Cohen, like the This Is playlist,
Yeah,
and
I
you
have
won't get
Apple
lost.
Music, but Apple Music is good because it has all usually has like the has most of their albums, the Leonard Cohen's albums, but his EPs. But is there only Death of a Ladies Man? Is there only 6 tracks? I thought there was more on that one.
Death of a Ladies Man,
No,
yeah,
no, no.
I
There's 10. Hold on, I found it.
you found it. Okay, give it to us.
There's 8. There's 8. Yeah, there's 8 tracks on it. But yeah, usually like the essential Leonard Cohen, like I'll do
Yes,
that.
exactly.
So that's where I'm like, not great at like dissecting each album. You want it darker?
That's where you got me. I'll fill in those gaps. Don't worry. Don't worry. But yeah, and he had this is where I was saving this for now. He had a
Mhm,
collection of poetry called Death of a Ladies Man
mhm.
that just spelled lady with a Y instead of the IES. So there is an album version and then there's a collection of poetry. And I think, again, once we move on to 1979's recent songs, and he always would name his albums that stuff. It was always like new songs, old songs, recent songs, songs in a room. It was always like my album titles are just face value. This is what I'm doing right now.
Mhm.
And I always kind of love that about Leonard Cohen. And recent songs, 1979 is when Cohen goes jazz. I love this
Yeah.
album, with hints of world music as well. I'm not sure if we've ever talked about this on air, Miss Alexandra Parsons, Alexandra the Great. I love jazz. That's probably one of my favorite musical art
I
forms
don't think we did because
on the planet.
I love jazz as well.
Ooh, okay. We'll have to have a jazz show here pretty soon.
Oh,
So,
that'd be fun.
so you liked recent? I take it you loved recent songs then.
I do. I was surprised. I don't know if I was surprised, but because some of them are a little. You listen to it and you could tell it's from the 80s or like late 70s or
Oh, sure.
90s, and you're like,
Production wise,
it's a little kitschy sometimes. But
like I'm Your Man. Oh my God, what a left turn.
oh, that music!
What an off
I
ramp.
can't do it. I was about to do the music for "I'm Your Man" by "I'm Your Man."
Ooh, see
Like,
that dark, that deep, raspy vocal we got
it's
today.
working. It's
Yeah,
working.
it's working. It's perfect for
Um,
the show.
yeah. So that really is a that. What year did you do that one again? I think that was
Which one? Recent songs or
1988. "I'm
I'm
Your
Your Man
Man"
is
the album.
1988. Yep,
Yeah.
1988.
First we take on Manhattan, then we take Berlin. Fuck, that song's so good.
Yes, indubitably,
Oh my god, that
indubitably.
fucking album's insane.
Before we
Yeah.
get there, we do have to talk about the end of an era. 1984's Various Positions. This is so if you're wondering where Hallelujah lies, guys, this is the album, Various Positions. This is my favorite of more of the first, I'm calling the first era, the end of an era for his career in music.
Mm.
I can see why this is sometimes considered as magnum opus. And I kept feeling that way, or I was worried that with this feeling of like, oh, it's just going to get better and better and better. I'm like, okay, when is it going to start going downhill? And the beauty of his career is I never felt that way because he reinvented himself
Yeah.
with I'm Your Man in 1988. Before we get there, various positions.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that. Well, Hallelujah's in the middle of the track, right in the middle of the album. And I think Dance Me, and it starts with Dance Me to the End of Love, right? That's how it opens into it.
Starts with Dance Me to the End of Love.
Which, I
We'll just
mean,
go. I think this is one of those albums. Let me
they
just
are
run
so
through it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So side
I get
one is
overwhelmed. Sorry, I'm getting
it's
it's just overexcited.
it's okay, no problem. So side one was Dance Me to the End of Love, as already stated. Track number 2 is Coming Back to You. The Law, Night Comes On, and then side 2 starts with Hallelujah. Track
Mhm.
number 2 is The Captain, Hunter's Lullaby, Heart with No Companion, and If It Be Your Will.
Oh my god, that If It Be Your Will is so beautiful.
It is it's another, I know we talk about this a lot in our shows. I don't know, it's a perfect album. Like between, like everything was landing between his lyrics, so his writing, his
Mhm.
vocal approach, the musicality, the production, just like it's a perfect product. It's a perfect little composition of so many things going on correctly. And what's I don't know how to put the word, not frustrating, surprising is that I study a lot of like those best of lists from different publications and stuff, and I feel like I didn't see enough Leonard Cohen. I feel like as much as he's one of those musician or an artist's artist,
Yes, he is. Yeah, he
one of
is.
those kind of artists where I think a lot of more people have heard his name versus like someone like Kate Bush, since we just did a show on her. Where I to this day I would still have people say who when I would
Mhm.
bring up Kate Bush, but almost with Leonard Cohen, no one does that. But then they have a really hard time picking out any other music besides Hallelujah.
It's true. Yeah, but then I have some people that are like, "I don't know who Leonard Cohen is." I'm like, "He wrote Hallelujah." And they're like, "He wrote it, not Jeff Buckley?" And I'm like, "No."
And Buckley did it in what, 1994? I want to
Yeah,
say.
did
I think.
94, and what Hallelujah has over 200 covers. It's one of the most biggest covered songs of all time.
Right.
It's wild.
Well, I
Yeah.
think Paul McCartney's and the Beatles, one of their tracks is the most covered song of all
Is
time.
it? Oh, I thought
Yeah,
Hallelujah was. Okay. Right.
I think it's up there. I think it's a definitely. I do know this. I remember him saying, "Please stop cover." Like he was like, respectfully, please stop covering my song. I think it like got to this point
It was
where
a
he was saying
yeah.
so many artists cover Hallelujah that he would say like, could we take just like a little break, little time out from that?
No, the Rufus Wainwright is another great musician who did amazing covers of his songs. Do you like Rufus? Did you ever listen to his stuff?
I'm late to the party, so we should do a
Okay.
show on Rufus, and that would probably help me really fast forward to.
Oh, he's amazing. He's another amazing. But he did a beautiful cover of Hallelujah, and his cover of Chelsea Hotel is absolutely stunning. And they had a really good relationship. Him and Martha Wainwright, they're sisters.
Hmm.
So like, and then they were on. So for the people, if you want to see, there's like this music homage to Leonard Cohen, and it's called "I'm Your Man," and it's just a bunch of amazing musicians covering his songs and like honoring him. It's
Hmm.
really cool. If you haven't seen it, you should see it.
Okay. Well, a Jim of the week. Thank you, Miss
Oh
Parsons.
yeah, I haven't seen it in years, but yeah, you're
Um.
welcome. Back to
So
the album. Sorry, I apologize for I
no, we
digress.
needed a T-Buck tangent quarter. So we need at least one every show. It's in our contract. So if we don't do it, we don't get paid for these shows. But now, yeah, let's do a Novo pullback,
Okay.
and let's transition to 1988. I'm Your Man, and I'm Your Man is so yeah. Because I already alluded at this, he never, there was every time he got to his peak, he would kind of reinvent a part of his sound or try something new to where I felt like it was always a roller coaster, but never a complete peak where he then, his career kind of went downhill a little bit, like a lot of, famous musicians or artists or whomever, because he transitioned to kind of electronic music
Yeah,
with I'm Your Man.
yeah.
It was essentially synth pop. And part of that was the 80s production talking here. And it is a great album. It's just so different. Like, it just, like, if you listen to various, because I feel I like to block some albums into trilogies and things like that, even if it's sometimes it's accidental, sometimes it's purposeful. But like Death of a Ladies Man, 1977, Recent Songs, 1979, in various positions, 1984, was kind of like a trilogy in a way. And then he completely went fucking off-roading and with I'm Your Man in 1988, and it was a synth pop album. And so listening, like, just try this, any of you music lovers out there, listen to those three as a trilogy, and then listen to I'm Your Man. And except for the clear vocal that would tie these together, it's a completely different world.
It is. It is a different world. You do hear, like, it's a little more fun, maybe.
Yeah, a little more dance. It's synth pop.
It's still all of his music feels like he's dancing with a special woman in like a beautiful room, right?
Yeah.
He's always like, it's
like
always to someone. That's the visual I get. This one is a little more, he's on an adventure. Like, when I think of, like, first we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. It's like this interesting, like, where did this come from? Like snapping the fingers. Yeah, it has a little, it's like almost, it has the jazz, but it has still honoring some of that beatnik quality. I don't know if you agree. And everybody knows.
Agree, yeah.
Everybody knows.
That's why I said in the thesis, like, at his core, no matter what he did, he was always that poet. You know, he's always that poet that was okay breaking the rules or being a little more, having underground, you know, cult following kind of fame than, you know, being on the front of the cover or being in the movie or whatever the thing was. So he was always that artist, which is a perfect, he's been a perfect subject for our show. Miss Parsons pitched this show to us guys, and as soon as you said that in our pitch meeting, I was like, oh yeah, this has to be in our progeny of shows. This is perfect.
I like to talk about things I'm passionate about, as we all do.
And the pop stuff too. You know, we talked Star Wars that one day.
Oh, I'm passionate about Star Wars. Though. I got that tattoo on my arm.
Yeah, put a pin in that. I have a Star Wars reference in our Gyms.
Yay! Okay.
Yay. And it did just hit me. I was having I completely lost my train of thought when we were talking about Hallelujah, and we were talking about the most covered song of all time, and I said, I think that's a Beatles song, a Paul McCartney song, but I couldn't think of the actual song for a moment there, but it just hit me. It was Yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard that. Okay. I think it was like Besides Yesterday.
All seems so far away. Yes, that Yesterday.
There you go.
Yesterday. So let's pull it back with 1992's The Future. So even this was another, I really thought he was just gonna kind of go down this fucking road of like, let's explore electronic music and synth pop and all this shit. But no, he went 1992's The Future. He went a little more traditional rock, for lack of a better genre title. I mean, it was still simple. It was definitely not folksy. It was definitely, I think, a product of the 90s too, with between production and everything like that. And though it was laced with religious and fucking biblical undertones, of course, I think this was Cohen at his most sexy. I think this was peak sexy for Cohen.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like, I sound like a pubescent boy. Really? Oh.
She's going through puberty.
Oh God. I'm so sorry, y'all. Thank you for bearing with us in this voice.
What do you think peak sexy is then?
Peak sexy?
Or we are not there yet. Or have we already passed it, or are we not there yet?
Or
is it just like all of it?
I think all of it. Like, it's just like him metamorphosing throughout the years, and he just like a fine wine. So I don't think you're wrong. He just has aged like a fine wine.
Yeah, technically. I mean, since we're on this album now, technically this is the most sexy. With that
this
metaphor.
Is like a nice deep Merlot or something.
Ooh. Cab Sav.
A Cab Sav, like a nice little complex. What is your favorite song on this album?
My favorite song on this album? Ooh, God. I think before I talk about that, I want to talk about the fact that I think part of the reason it came to me as such a sexy, is peak sexy, as I put it, is all the female singers, all the duets.
Oh yeah, he has a lot of like background. It is 90s. Everybody, their background singers then.
almost 30 female singers on this album.
Damn, I didn't
Almost.
know that.
Yeah, yeah. God, The Future, always.
Yeah.
Light as the Breeze,
I like Democracy.
Closing Time, Democracy.
Oh my god, Closing Time's so fucking good. Sorry.
Yeah.
Closing Time.
I was thinking that 90s song, Closing Time, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah, that's true.
closing time.
Oh shit. Okay. Now it's ruined for me. Now you fucking
No,
ruined
Cohen's
something.
Closing Time.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a lot of that, the opposite of my my question to you earlier in the show of like, does this happen to a female fantasy? I think as a male, of course, I've always been in love with female vocals, the opposite, right? So it's only natural, depending on where you stand, though, of course.
It depends. I've always loved, but I've always been more of a female singer-songwriter person. I think Leonard Cohen is one of the like Tori Amos was one of my first like female singers.
A little bit of a deep cut, Tori Amos.
Yeah,
she's like in the middle cut.
Some
people know her, a lot of don't, but that's
she is very weird. She's a very weird individual, but in a great way. Leonard Cohen was kind of on that exploratory thing for me, where I like want to discover things on my own without the influence of my siblings. I'm the youngest of 5.
Yeah.
So I can't. Like, I love bands. I guess I do love singer-songwriters. Like, I love George Michael. I love Stevie Wonder is my favorite.
Oh,
so I guess I do love a lot of singer. Yeah. Oh my
god. Yeah. Don't get me started on Stevie Wonder. God.
So maybe it is equal for me.
I think you'll like the next two then. So there's this huge fucking gap between The Future, 1992 again, and 10 New Songs, 2001. So 9 years, because this is that time he became a Zen Buddhist monk, guys. So we talked about that earlier in the show. And so he went into complete seclusion for almost 10 years into a monastery and came out of it a Zen Buddhist monk. But then he still, I think his one true love was art. So he kind of came back to it with 10 New Songs in 2001. And again, he kept pushing into exploring duets and harmonies. And I think that's we didn't talk about this in the primer section, but I think that's really where the complexity of his songs came from. If they ever were really complex, it wasn't with crazy instruments or time signatures or all these weird, crazy arrangements or movements or anything like that. It was what they were doing with their vocal harmonies and melodies and turning those into polyrhythms and things like that. And we see that to amazing effect on 10 New Songs of 2001 with Sharon Robinson and with Dear Heather, 2004 with Anjani Thomas. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Miss Thomas. Anjani. I apologize if I'm butchering that, but these I love these albums with a little more return to form. Still very sexy.
Oh, it was so sexy. I mean, the 10 New Songs has one of my favorite all-time poems / a song. A lot of the
good people.
1,000 Kisses Deep. It has In My Secret Life. I apologize for that noise in the background. That was my dog doing something strange.
Boba Fett.
What is that? He's so funny.
Is he tracking someone down right now? Is that what's happening?
He's like sneezing or something.
Oh, I thought he was hunting. He's clearly a bounty hunter with that name. So I thought that.
Oh yeah, he's bounty hunting.
He's bounty hunning, right? Is that?
He's a bounty hunting. Like he's putting on his outfit right now to go
fly
away.
Dog toys or. I'm not sure what he's hunting, but there's a bounty that he's looking for, guys.
He's hunting for a comfortable spot in his bed. So yeah, that album, 10 New Songs, like Alexandra Leaving, for maybe narcissistic reasons. I love that song.
And, why?
I wonder why. Alexandra Leaving. There's I have the book the poetry next to me, the book, and yeah, 1,000 Kisses is too long, I think, to read on here. It's like 2 pages.
Okay. You could read just like the first few lines, 4 or 5.
I can read the
first stanza. I'm not sure if they're separated in stanzas, but I think we have enough time. Yeah. Is there a stanza you'd like to read?
There's this like, excuse me. Okay, let me get.
I think your voice has gotten more to your natural voice through.
Is it because I'm talking more?
Through the course of the show? Yeah.
Oh God, I love. Okay, this one. There's so many great verses in this fucking song now. I like, if you say, first off, Guys, go on YouTube and find Leonard Cohen like reciting Thousand Kisses Deep. It's that one, it's his London 2009 tour.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful because he's just like the whole audience gets quiet.
Hmm.
So I'll read 2 stanzas or whatever from it. So I'm good at love. I'm good at hate. It's in between I freeze. Been working out, but it's too late. It's been too late for years. But you look fine, you really do. The pride of Boogie Street. Somebody must have died for you. 1,000 kisses deep. And then another one is I loved you.
Whoa,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other one is from this poem is I loved you when you opened like a lily to the heat. I'm just another snowman standing in the rain and sleet who loved you with his frozen love, his second-hand physique, with all he is and all he was, 1,000 kisses deep. I
Ooh.
mean, like
Oh
that
man.
is so like
That'll cut you. That'll cut
oh
you
my
deep. Oh
god.
man.
Every time
I
I
think we need to
hear
move on, or
I
we're just gonna
know.
need more poetry
It's
selections from you.
so beautiful. It's my favorite all-time favorite poem, I think. It's
Wow.
so and him singing it live, like, every sometimes when if I'm with a gentleman, I'd be like, "Hey, you should hear this." That's like my move. You should listen to this.
That's like your come
That's
on.
like
That's your test. That's your test. If
it is,
one
yeah,
he goes who, and
it
two he
is my
goes I'm
test.
not really into poetry. Then you're like, oh God, I'm sorry.
Big
I'm not sure.
no-no.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure if this is gonna work out.
it's a big
So,
no-no.
guys, let's move on to 2012. So again, huge fucking gap. Did you notice that? So Dear Heather was in 2004, and then it took him another 8 years to make Old Ideas, 2012. Now, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but it's important to his bio history. So we went through a little bit of legal troubles, and that, long story short, it is he had a manager that essentially stole almost everything from him, or at least a like 90 to 99% of his earnings over the year. So he went on this huge series of touring kicks. He toured for years and years and years to recoup a lot of his losses. So that's why there was a big gap. So he was still
Oh, that
performing.
makes sense. There's
Yeah,
a
he
lot of
was
albums too, like Live at the Isle,
exactly. He
right,
was still
yeah.
doing music, but it was live rendition, so he could recoup his losses. So there wasn't a proper new LP until 2012 with Old Ideas, and this actually was his highest charting album of his entire career. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I want to talk about the last three, because this one was, I think, just classic Cohen. You know,
Mhm.
it was just, again, return to form, very very folk oriented, but to pretty much perfection, you know, within his ballpark of skills, his camp.
Oh, The Darkness. Oh god, that song's amazing. That was beautiful, just like all of his stuff. His kinda, like, comeback.
Mm-hmm.
That was almost like a comeback, I'm back or whatever, but he's
I'm back,
definitely
bitches, kind of
he's
feeling.
older, he's a much older here, he was
Yeah.
that's why it's like Old Ideas. His voice is starting to sound more like
But what a
Tom
classic
Waits a
Cohen
little bit.
album title. Oh yeah, very. I'm God, you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, Tom Waits definitely in the last two albums. So Popular Problems 2014 and You Want It Darker 2016. It was
Yeah,
not only so, yeah, his voice dropped maybe an octave or two. Like this was
yeah.
like peak deep raspy Cohen. And because of that, what I don't know if someone, God, I wish we could be a fly on the wall. So I want to think it was him, but it could have been like a producer or a friend or a musician, writing companion, or whoever said like, you should really do a blues album because your voice, it's just oozing the blues, you know, like you have this perfect vocal for that. Because Popular Problems, probably my favorite one of the newer stuff of the second era of his career. It was so bluesier, especially with little tracks like Nevermind, which was also used in the opening credits to True
Mhm.
Detective season 2. I really loved this fucking album. Oh my god, yeah, this is probably my favorite one of the second era, where Various Positions was my first.
Mhm.
And You Want It Darker was released 3 weeks before his death, and there
Oh,
is track titles, or there's lyrics talking about that. Like,
I
I'm
lo
ready. He
I'm
would say
ready
that. Yeah,
to
yeah,
oh
I'm
god,
ready
it
to
is
pass.
haunting. I think he knows. I think you do know. But, like, that's what you think about a lot when you get old. It's like, my dad constantly talks about, like, him dying, and I'm like, "Oh
Mm,
god, like, stop."
bless his
Like
heart.
yeah, like, it's just kinda like, what else you know it's coming sooner or later, like, at that age in your 80s, you're like, "Any day now." it could be.
But this is the thing about art. I'm gonna put a little positive spin on that. Is I think this is part of the reason I got into the arts later in my life and in as a second career is it can be timeless and there can be legacy because even after he died, his family and friends and his estate, and obviously the amazing musicians he worked with throughout his life, made an album after his passing, and that is with 2019's "Thanks for the Dance." It's definitely the shortest one to date. It's almost like an EP, but it's almost like they closed a circle. Miss Parsons,
Mm-hmm.
like he started with folk and he ended with folk, and
Mm.
I think it was kind of a perfect way to kind of close or end the book, the
Like
very last
bow.
chapter, the
His
end.
bow. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Listen to the hummingbird. Ugh. And he loved hummingbirds. Did you notice in some of his, like, even on the Book of Longing, there's a bird on it. Like, he loved birds.
Hmm.
And a couple different album covers.
I
Um,
believe
the one
the
you really like,
future.
the
Yeah.
future has a hummingbird with a heart and chains.
Yeah.
So that was really a really lovely homage to him, I think. And that's one of my big regrets is I didn't get to see him live. And
Me
I
either.
could have, and I was just like, I don't know if
Oh.
I can afford. The tickets were crazy expensive,
Yeah. Oh, I
and
can
I was just
imagine. Yeah.
they're
I
like 180, like for a good ticket. I wanted to see him close. It was like $200,
yeah.
and I was like, I can't really afford that
Don't
right
get me
now.
don't get me started on that fucking industry. The price gouging and let's not
It's
go
not.
down that
That's why Prince
deep.
was awesome when he did live show, like free shows. Prince would do free shows for people.
Oh, I love me some Prince too. Oh
Yeah,
God.
sorry. I'm just because we're talking about musicians, so it's like I might
Yeah.
as well bring a bunch up.
Oh yeah.
So,
I love me some
yeah.
Prince. I love me some I just don't like the the concert ticket industry specifically.
No,
They can go
no,
fuck
yeah.
themselves.
I mean,
Um
yeah, of course, that's terrible. I would see more shows if they weren't so expensive.
I do want to. He did have quite a number of film credits to his career too. I just want to go through those real quick, and then we're gonna talk. We're gonna bring this bitch home. Tie a bow on this bitch. So his filmography includes his credits includes "Ladies and Gentlemen," Mr. Leonard Cohen, "Angel," Poen, "The Ernie Game," "I Am a Hotel," "Song of Leonard Cohen," "The Tibetan Book of the Dead," Part 1 and 2. So here he would be narrator since he
Yeah,
had great
I
voice.
saw that one. That
Yeah,
one's
he would be
really
a narrator.
cool.
And then a lot of them would be documentaries on him, like Leonard Cohen, "I'm Your Man," Leonard Cohen, "Bird of a Wire," "Al Purdy Was Here," "Marianne," and Leonard, "Words of Life."
I
I
don't think I saw
may
that one.
I put the comma in a weird place. It was "Al Purdy Was Here," and then comma, "Marianne and Leonard, Words of Love."
Mm,
There we go.
okay.
So, Miss Parsons, we've
Yes.
come to the end of the show. Tell the good people why they should study the art and the works of one Leonard Cohen.
Yeah, I mean, like, where to begin? He is like one of. Would you say he's like one of the fathers of kind of beatnik hipster poets?
Ooh, I honestly I feel like he's more of the godfather of the archetype of the ladies' man. I found that more
Yeah,
fascinating than more of his his seclusion, his
he
underground,
he
beatnik
did like to.
stuff.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did like to talk about a lot how when I listened to some of his talks where he always wanted to give the music back to the people, which is very folky.
Right, yes.
So he was kind of like the people's musician.
Oh, I have a good that just made me think of a story I read where he said he was so glad because he did write for other musicians.
Mm-mm.
Some people may not know that. He would write songs for other musicians or at least the lyrical part and then they would create the music around it or the arrangements. And one of his famous pieces, the name is eluding me right now, but I remember just what he said and it was this. "I'm so glad I sold those rights away to this song that became this huge fucking hit because it wouldn't be right to get rich off of good art."
Mm.
Yeah, I'm kind of
He was such a
paraphrasing,
he's such a
but
purist.
yeah, but it was a lot like that. I'm paraphrasing, but
I think the reason why everyone should listen to him is because he is a purist, a romanticist, romanticist. I don't know what I'm saying.
romanticism.
Romanticism.
He mastered
But
the art
he
of
really like,
romanticism.
yeah, if you want to listen to something that comes from the heart.
Mm.
And you want to listen to poetry that really resonated for the people, especially during all the genres. Somebody that like you want to get in touch with how to be a man. Listen to Leonard Cohen or read his poetry. Go on YouTube and see some of the things that he's recited. And just start with the classics. Because I'm going to always stick to this, and I've said it. You have to learn where things come from. You have to learn about the classics, and he's kind of like the father of. I think he is one of the fathers of like kind of beatnik of folk. Besides,
He's a godfather of a lot of things.
yeah, Godfather.
Yes, just that's why I put it
Just
in the
give him a
thesis
listen.
of like he was a lot of things in his career, but at the heart and soul of I think who he was and who he always wanted to be was the poet, and he became that. And though his career really branched out, he always had the opportunity to put his poetry into so many different kinds of medium, because what is music but poetry? We have to
Yeah.
or obviously there are complete instrumentals, but a song with lyrics and words and singing is poetry. So he was still able to give his amazing poetry to the world. There you have it. The life, the legacy that is Leonard Cohen. I want to thank you for listening. Of course, I want to thank my guest, Miss Alexandra Parsons, for joining us today. But before we go, we have a little extra for you, a little icing on the cake, a little cherry on top with what we call the gem of the week. If you're new to the show and don't know what the gem of the week is, it's something we like to talk about, but doesn't always fit into the scheme of the episode. The main subject matter, the meat and potatoes. But maybe on our radar in the last week, maybe last month, I don't know, but we want to give it to you guys so you guys can dig deeper. Now, before we talk about it, of course, we need to talk about their sponsor. Today's gems are brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is our go-to tool for remote podcast recordings. What's great is that you can record separate audio and video tracks, and it's all backed up on a secured cloud, so you never lose your hard work. Even better, it's easy to use, and there's nothing to download. So go to zen.ai, that's zen.ai/Art of the Beholder, or just use promo code Art of the Beholder and get 30% off your first 3 months with the Pro account. Now back to the gems. Mine's 2. Mine is very far from literature, music, and poetry, and that is with, again, stand-up comedy. Huge stand-up fan. I just saw Nick Kroll's Little Big Boy on Netflix.
Shit. Okay.
And I've always been, I think I've always kind of followed Nick Kroll's career adjacent to Mr. Mulaney. I think I like him more than...
Yeah, I love John Mulaney.
Yeah, I've always really loved John Mulaney's stand-up and his work, and every time I try to get into Nick Kroll, I was like, it's okay, it's not quite my cup of tea. And then I saw this, and I was like, oh, this really, I really connected with the stand-up.
Good. I was wondering if it was good or not. I was like,
it was the
excellent. Same way. Good. I felt the same way you did. I was like,
yeah, I was kind of like, I don't watch his animated show. I didn't watch, when I forgot the name of the show.
Big Mouth.
Yeah, there's Big Mouth, and him and John Mulaney would play like old men, and they would have
hello there.
Yeah, that one. I never got into that either, but I was like, man, Nick Kroll, Little Big Boy, really enjoyed your work. And then now I have the Star Wars reference for you, but not. Go on the journey with me. It's an unexpected one, because I'm going to start by saying I saw Tom Cruise's Top Gun: Maverick. His new Top Gun movie yesterday.
Okay.
It was good. It was good. I can see why it made $1 trillion fucking dollars, and everyone and their mom went and saw it, especially for the third act. The third act was excellent. That's where we actually finally got to the action and the fucking jets and shit. But I take it you haven't watched it.
I have not seen.
Well, maybe I'll sell it with this comment, because essentially the third act is a recreation of Star Wars: A New Hope. I'm shocked no one has talked about the movie in this.
Wait, in the Maverick?
Yeah. So the storyline, that is, not literally. The storyline almost beat by beat follows Star Wars: A New Hope. So episode 4, when they got to the Death Star and they have to shoot torpedoes into this tiny little hole to blow up the big thing. That's pretty much it. Because me and my wife started to joke about it. It's like, isn't this movie fucking Star Wars? Didn't they just copy Star Wars? And she's like, yeah, no, they did. They definitely did. So I say go see it, but it is essentially them shooting torpedoes into the Death Star at the end of the movie.
Oh my God, I have to watch this now. Well, I was talking to my best friend, and I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about the Zolas. And then she's like, Philip already did that. And I
Philip
was
did
like,
talk about the Zolas, yeah.
fuck.
But you
I was
can
like,
do,
God
you
damn
can do.
it.
We've done two. We've talked about.
I'll do another band,
Well, we'll just do it real quick. So Zola's one, and then what's number two? Because we did it with Kendrick Lamar. We've talked about Kendrick Lamar's new album twice as Gems with two different people, so it's okay.
The Zolas, yes. All their albums are amazing. I got into them recently, and I love their stuff. They have a new song out called, damn it. Okay, I'm not doing a great job. But the second
we'll put in the show notes, the liner notes.
The second one is The Electric. So my friend's band, they're really good. I would go check out The Electric Sons.
Okay.
They're on Spotify. Andrew and Ben, they're like, it's two of them. And then they also have a drummer and a bassist. Sometimes they rotate them out. It's a little poppy, but it's beautiful. Like Andrew has a beautiful voice. Writes all the songs. They do a really great cover of a couple of Frank Ocean songs. So I would check them out. Just to remind y'all, if anyone's ever been into George Michael,
oh please, yes,
I have been a full-hearted lover of him for a very long time. Go listen to one of his best albums of all time, and it's called Listen Without Prejudice. His record company didn't push the album enough, but it has like the newer version of like Freedom on there. It also has Father Figure, Cowboys and Angels. There's like amazing. So go listen to that. I got that on vinyl, and I flipped out when Rough Trade called me. It's like, hey, this album's here for you. And I'm like, wait, you guys actually fucking ordered it? I just told them, do you have it? They're like, no. And then they called me a week later and said they got the album for me.
It was destiny again.
Yeah, Rough Trade, man. They're fucking awesome. I love that record vinyl company. All right. There you go. Sorry, it was a lot of gems.
No. There's no limit. There's no rules. There's no rules.
So Zolas, Electric Sons, listen to George Michael's Listen Without Prejudice.
There you go, guys. And if you like that, of course, you can check out some of our stuff. You can do on my end of the tracks. You can do it at novadayproductions.com. There you'll find things like the Entropy Sessions, Post-Meridium, Adulteration, Cancel Culture Lotto, of course, more ads for this show. Check out our other shows. You can hear Miss Parsons talk about some other stuff with us. So don't forget to like and subscribe and do all the things. You know what to fucking do. It's just internet etiquette at this point. If you like the thing, subscribe. Jesus Christ. And if you'd like to sponsor a little love child, or we started adding this into our shows now, if you want to be on the show, you can reach out to us at novadaymedia@gmail.com. Now, let's talk about the other side of the tracks. If you like anything, if you like the stuff we talk about, let's talk about this. Segue.
What's happening?
Miss Parsons, if they want to get a hold of you for your services, tell the good people, how do they do that?
Okay, so I'm a piece of shit and haven't updated my goddamn fucking website.
Wait. Time out.
Oh, God.
Have you, like, if someone goes to alexanderparsons.com, it's still down? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad I did the Instagram. I'm really glad I did the Instagram handle in the intro then.
Because that has everything on it anyway, which is better. It has like the link to the Etsy, the Instagram, so Alexandra_Parsons.
Okay, so it has all the things still.
Yeah, it has.
And they can still DM you if they want to.
I want to reconstruct my website anyway, so it's okay. But I need to I just I'm a teacher full time. Please forgive me all. I teach a bunch of third graders that are dyslexic. I'm exhausted, so I just forget.
You.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why you have that Instagram. We can get everything there, and we can DM you if we want to hire you to. One of these days, out of the blue, I'm like, Alexandra, I need you to help me design a new suit. One of these days, I'm going to do that out of the blue. You won't see
I would love to do
You'll
that,
probably see it coming. I'm not going to.
If anybody wants to hire me for costume work, I'm down too, because I've done that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. So, well, tell the good people. What's your Instagram handle?
Alexandra_Parsons. My Etsy is Alexandra Parsons Co. So you can see everything on my Instagram. I will be fixing my website. I just want to add all the movie stuff I've done as well,
There you go.
and just redesign it because it has some of like all my fashion stuff, but I want to add more of my art
Yeah.
and everything. So yeah, you can hit me up. You can email me on there or message or DM me with anything you need. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
There you go, guys. Check her out. And until next time, be good to each other. And as always, good luck and Godspeed. We love you.
Art of the Beholder is brought to you by Novo Day Productions. Created and hosted by Novo Day and the Novo Day Collective. Facebook.com/Novo Day Media, at Novo Day Media on Twitter and Instagram. Music by A Company. Facebook.com/ACoMusic123. ACO on Spotify. Logo design by Tom Justice, JESTUS, of thejusticecompany.com. And executively produced by Clayton Anderson. All rights reserved.
Not just raw dog and sex. The concert ticket industry specifically. They can go fuck themselves.